Kicked out as a teenager for false rumors unfold with the aid of my brother. Years later, dad and mom see my fulfillment and call for cash when they abandon me. I am a 28-year vintage woman with a dual brother developing up my twin brother, and I experienced very one-of-a-kind treatment from our parents. My mother and father honestly seemed satisfied for a few cause that my brother was destined for greatness, even as I was the so-known as black sheep, just because I turned into extra interested by gambling, sports activities, or making new buddies than reading. They continuously compared us, which was demoralizing and bruised my vanity from a younger age as a baby. I had to look at my brother have extravagant events on our birthday together with his pals at the same time as I was handled like an afterthought. He regularly had sleepovers with his pals. Whilst I become in no way even allowed to carry my buddies return to our vicinity to be sincere. I loathed every minute of my youth. The simplest person within the own family who appeared to care about me become my grandmother. Whilst she visited us, she continually delivered me my favored goodies, and once in a while slipped some greenbacks to me in order that I may want to deal with myself. Later, as the years handed this blatant favoritism for my twin brother, step by step transformed into emotional abuse directed at me. My dad and mom might brazenly mock my grades and belittle my interests. It felt as even though irrespective of how plenty I tried, I could in no way meet their expectations of being the correct child. Even though I turned into properly at sports activities, they barred me from participating in extracurricular sports, as they wanted me to concentrate most effective on research. Similar to my brother, it became irritating and I felt helpless as a toddler. Later in my sophomore 12 months, I got grounded all over again, and this time the crime having Snapchat on my cell phone. I had performed truly nothing incorrect. Except like all teens at my age, I had downloaded this app to live connected with my buddies but consistent with my parents. This changed into a huge crime and a breach in their trust, as they had forbidden me from speaking with my pals. They went batshit loopy on me and threw all my stuff across the room. They then took the doors of my hinges and instructed me that I don't have any privateness. So long as I lived beneath their roof, looking, my parents abused me. This manner, my twin brother, in place of supporting me, made my existence worse. The toxic environment created through our dad and mom. Unjust moves allowed him to make the state of affairs to his advantage. He followed a sample of lying, approximately me falsely accusing me of factors I never did in order that he should break out with the whole lot. If he stole something, he'd shift the blame to me and my mother and father, already willing to believe the worst. Approximately me with ease. Conventional his lies. He might demean me in front of my buddies at faculty and would make a laugh of my look. Regardless of this, I had an extensive circle of buddies at school because I changed into approachable and open to making connections. My dual but struggled socially, and he started to resent that I ought to speak to humans, while he, as an introvert, felt awkward. This jealousy reached a boiling point throughout our 14th party, while nobody confirmed up for him on his birthday. I don't have any idea why. His pals did that to him. However, in stark contrast, my buddies took me out for ice cream, and I had a normal, excellent day. This infuriated my brother. In addition to take revenge, my brother began to spread false rumors at school, approximately me, wherein he would painting me as a spoiled brat. He might falsely inform everyone that I changed into allegedly bodily abusing him at domestic, on the grounds that our parents cherished him more. Unbeknownst to me, he took things to a worrying level. To manufacture evidence, he would punch himself purposefully, causing injuries like a black eye or bruised shoulder. Tomorrow, he would expectantly walk into school showing the self-inflicted damage injuries as evidence of my meant violence and makeup. Testimonies every time our parents puzzled him. Approximately the injuries he might lie, pronouncing that it turned into because of harmless sports like playing football along with his friends. The lies in his alleged black eyes commenced to advantage traction, and people began to agree with his distorted model of activities. It wasn't long earlier than whispers started out circulating, and even my buddies began to have a look at me with suspicion. At the beginning, I observed subtle modifications. Friends who once chatted with me within the hallways all of a sudden became distant. Invitations to institution hangouts have become fewer and farther between. It changed into like a transfer were flipped, and those have been hesitant to partner with the supposedly spoiled lady accused of violence in the future. I mustered the braveness to ask my ex-satisfactory pal why matters had changed between us. She unfolded about how my dual brother were spreading rumors about me. She found out the specified lies he had told. Absolutely everyone accusing me of things I had never finished. I become taken aback to listen. Her words, the feeling became a mix of disbelief and betrayal, as though the floor under me had given way. My brother, someone I grew up with, turned into spreading lies about me, accusing me of factors I might in no way even dream of doing. It was a betrayal that cut deep, leaving me with a knot in my belly and a heavy coronary heart. I confronted my brother the day after our college, but he selected to disregard me. I begged him to forestall mendacity, approximately me. However, he smirked at me and told me that I need to rot on my own. I became puzzled due to the fact his lies and conduct were starting to scare me. I wanted to talk to my dad and mom, but I was afraid that they might believe my brother over me. The isolation stung, in particular because I had constantly been open to creating pals. It felt like my brother's jealousy-fueled lives were tearing down the connections I had constructed over time. Teachers, too, began to catch wind of the rumors. It was a surreal enjoy, as if I have been residing in a parallel truth where my genuine self become overshadowed by the malicious tale spun by my personal dual. The lies had grown beyond mere teenage gossip. They have been now shaping how human beings absolutely understand me. The nasty rumor fast reached my principal's ears, and then my worst nightmare came real. The major at once called me and my brother into his room in addition to our parents, so we ought to talk those alleged rumors. I sat there, coronary heart pounding, as the main demanded the truth. I hoped my brother might in the end come clean. However, as an alternative, he doubled down on the lies. He instantly uptold the predominant that, yeah, the rumors had been actual, and painted me as this bully who went around beating him up when our parents weren't around. I couldn't accept as true with it. Shock washed over me as my brother endured spinning this twisted story about how I become irritated at him for buying extra love from our mother and father. It become all a bunch of lies. However, he caught to his story like glue. My mom started out to cry hearing my brother's tale, conserving directly to my brother like he changed into a few kind of hero. My dad attempted to comfort my brother, telling him that it turned into brave for him to speak up and that he changed into now not going to make certain that nothing could ever show up to him. After that day, I attempted to protect myself, pleading with the precept that it become all made up. I felt like I became drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately looking to swim to the surface. However, my brother saved at it, insisting that I changed into this indignant, violent person, eliminating my frustrations on him every day. My mom's tears stored coming as she held on to my brother, giving me accusing. Seems it turned into like fighting in opposition to a wall of notion in my brother's made-up story. My important reprimanded me strongly, saying the college didn't tolerate bullying and those were grounds to suspend me. I pleaded with him not to bend me, but he shook his head, pronouncing he could not simply allow it slide. I begged him, tears streaming down my face, attempting to inform him that I failed to do whatever to my brother. The fundamental firmly told me that I might be suspended for 10 days in order that others see this, for instance, to by no means bully all and sundry. It hit me difficult, and I started out crying even greater, almost begging him to reconsider. My mother and father, indignant and embarrassed by means of the entire state of affairs, dragged me out of the foremost office. I didn't want to go away. I wanted to plead my case and lead them to apprehend. However, they have been having none of it. We left the faculty, my coronary heart heavy with frustration and humiliation. Whilst we got domestic things took a drastic flip. My dad began packing up my stuff out of the blue. I turned into taken aback, confused, and had no concept what was going on. My mom requested him what he was doing. However, he simply shouted that he could not allow me stay within the identical residence. I changed into clearly bowled over to look her name on my telephone because it had been a long time due to the fact that she had called me after all the years of silence. I couldn't fathom why she become calling me, I hesitatingly known, as her returned, and she picked up right away. I asked her if everything became K, and my mom started to congratulate me. My dad, in all likelihood sitting right there with mom, jumped into the communique. Additionally, he commenced to inquire approximately my lifestyles and nicely being, and I replied their questions without a good deal notion. It failed to strike me as unusual till they commenced to invite how an awful lot I became earning. In recent times, I told them that it become none of their business, and my dad answered that we're own family, so I shouldn't sense shy telling them my income. I instructed him that I changed into doing properly financially. Hearing this, my mom then commenced to say how hard their lifestyles changed into. These days, my brows furrowed in suspicion. Basically, right here is how our verbal exchange pretty lots went. Mom, we're retired now, and we were trying to renovate the residence for a while. Now it is no longer in the high-quality form. However, we have no savings left me. Okay, Mom, your achievement has given us hope. After looking your TV interview nowadays, we thought perhaps you may assist us out via paying for the renovations. Dad, in spite of everything, we're a family. You should not hesitate to proportion a number of your income with us. We will truly use your help. Me? Are you joking with me? Why are you asking me for money whilst you have not even talked to me for years? I don't know what made you make a decision to reach out to me. And while I appreciate the congratulations, I'm not going to help you out in any manner. Hearing this, my mother commenced announcing how I was being and that I needed to support them as a circle of relatives. My dad also brought that as my mother and father, they deserve to be regarded out after, and that this turned into the least that we ought to do. I changed into so pissed at this that I wanted to present them a chunk of my thoughts. I abruptly were given an idea that in preference to simply arguing with them, I should teach them a lesson for all time, wondering that they could mooch off me after mistreating me all those years in the past. I advised my dad and mom that I turned into willing to help them if and most effective. In the event that they agreed to my needs, my dad curiously requested me what it became without hesitation. I laid out my demand. If they desired my help, they had to publicly admit in the front of our own family and pals that my brother changed into the mastermind in the back of the hurtful rumors that had tarnished my reputation. I desired them to humiliate my brother the same manner that they had humiliated me in front of absolutely everyone, by way of believing his lies and manipulations. I wanted them to take responsibility for their moves and acknowledge the ache that they had prompted, hearing my impossible circumstance. My dad started out to impeach the need of such an admission. My mother instructed me how this changed into all pretty pointless, and that we may want to have a private dialogue without concerning others. However, I held my floor. This situation became non-negotiable, a prerequisite for any assistance they wanted me to provide them inside the future. As the anxiety escalated, my dad raised his voice, declaring his function as my father, and began to emphasize that it changed into my obligation to assist my family. In need, my mom, in a closing-ditch effort, entreated me to do the right thing and assist them, emphasizing the years they'd spent elevating me. I couldn't help, however, find irony of their surprising enchantment. I reminded them of the beyond of the fact that they had kicked me out, and it become my grandmother who had raised me, no longer them. They began to get an increasing number of agitated. However, I advised them firmly that if they desired to establish touch with me and are seeking for my monetary assistance to any extent, further, then the reality had to be stated publicly, and my brother had to face effects for his movements due to the fact this conversation my dad and mom have been seeking to continuously name me. However, I am ignoring their calls. I am starting to regret even calling them lower back that day. I would love to understand if I could absolutely be in a hollow, if I failed to help my parents in any respect replace one. It has been a whirlwind of every week, considering that I remaining shared my story, and the support and encouragement I have been receiving from every person has been overwhelming. It's heartening to recognize that I'm no longer on my own for the duration of this time. I am glad that everybody can sense that I must now not engage with my mother and father, or maybe recall assisting them out after what they positioned me through. The reason I even gave them this type of condition changed into because I knew it turned into pretty a good deal. Not possible for them to do it. I recognize they love my brother too. Much, and in spite of the fact that they may have found out by way of now that it become all his lies, I realize they will by no means put him through what they placed me via today. My brother sent me a nasty text message after my dad and mom again attempted to contact me, and I refused to pick up their calls. That is what he wrote: "Good day. Sis, it's been a long term due to the fact that I noticed you, and I can let you know that every day without you in my life has been tremendous. I heard that mom and dad reached out to you and you gave them a loopy ultimatum they're in no way going to undergo with it. You understand that proper they clearly in no way loved you and they will never do something to hurt me. I admit that I did lie. Approximately 15 years ago, however, it has been a long time on the grounds that then so prevent being so selfish and try and flow on from the past, you're single and childless anyway. So why do you not need to help them out with the aid of paying for his or her upkeep and renovations across the house, do the proper thing and be a better daughter?" Seeing the message felt like a stab to my chest. The audacity to brush aside the struggles I had faced and the situations I had set spoke volumes. Approximately his lack of empathy, the attempt to guilt-trip me with the aid of emphasizing my single and childless status, introduced another layer of insensitivity. His insinuation that I ought to prioritize their desires over my own nicely being turned into now not simplest offensive, but also highlighted how little he thought of me. Few failed via frustration and a strong preference for justice. I determined it become time to take subjects into my very own palms and monitor the truth that were hidden for too lengthy. I sat right down to write an electronic mail to my parents and near loved ones, sharing the painful information of my childhood and the unfair treatment I had persisted at the same time as developing up at my own family residence. Within the electronic mail, I defined the strict and oppressive surroundings I had underneath my mother and father roof and the way they dealt with me compared to my dual brother. The email additionally delved into the malicious and absolutely unfaithful rumor my brother had spread about me in college, which had brought about intense effects and affected my recognition. I wrote how my mother and father had kicked me out to the scale back and had it no longer been my grandmother, I might have been lifeless inside the streets via now in the direction of the end. I asked all and sundry to read a message my brother had dispatched me. I connected a screenshot in which he admitted to mendacity about me. It changed into a clean confession that I hoped could expose the lies that had endured for too long. I sent the email just an hour ago, and I realize that all hell will break free as soon as my parents and my brother examine it. I will update you subsequent concerning how my circle of relatives reacts to my email update too. It's been a month on account that my final replace and plenty of things have came about this month. As you can consider, my family did erupt after receiving the email. My mother and father have acquired complaint from household who had been previously ignorant of the extent of the favoritism and emotional abuse. Numerous the own family contributors reached out to me, telling me that they had no idea about all this and apologized to me for not being there for me. My brother and my dad and mom sent me a barrage of textual content messages that have been starting to get more abusive and violent. So I decided to attain out to a legal professional who dispatched them a be aware of stop and desist. It basically warned them to no longer touch me. In addition, and in the as my brother anymore, I turned into crying practically on my knees and pleaded with my brother to tell them the truth, but he stayed bloodless, unmoved through my feelings. My dad continued packing my matters and then threw the suitcase into our lobby. I clung to my dad's legs. Nevertheless, begging him no longer to throw me out, it turned into like a nightmare unfolding. He instructed me that a bully like me failed to need to stay in his house and that he could ask his mother, my grandmother, to come and pick me up if she desired to do this. It felt just like the global had crumbled underneath me. I stood there in surprise, surrounded by my assets, scattered within the lobby, kicked out of my very own home. Ultimately, my grandmother did show up. She accrued all my things and helped me place them inside the car, supporting me into the passenger seat. She made certain I had my seatbelt on before strolling toward my dad and mom front door. She rang the doorbell, and while my dad opened the door, she started to yell at him for treating me this way. With stern determination, she warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to touch me again, she would not hesitate to contain the police or the CPS, considering that what he had completed to a toddler like me ought to probably wind up with him in jail. My mom, attempting to deflect blame, instructed her that it became my fault, but my grandmother wasn't having any of it. She stood her ground defending me, emphasizing that I become only a child who failed to deserve to be dealt with in this kind of heartless way that turned into the first time in my lifestyles. I felt how effective my grandmother turned into. She didn't cower right down to my parents, and in contrast to what they believed, she relied on me. Sooner or later, we drove away, leaving in the back of my home the handiest location I had ever grown up in. I cannot even begin to position into words how indescribable the pain I felt all through that point. I don't forget just crying at the mattress and not eating anything. regardless of how a lot my grandmother entreated me too. I informed her what my brother had completed, and he or she was bowled over as properly. She confided me that she believed my side of the tale, and I was satisfied that I, as a minimum, had one man or woman who had my returned. While the 10 days of suspension lifted the chance of returning to school, felt like stepping again right into a lion's den as I entered. The familiar hallways, the faces of my classmates spoke volumes, judgment, whispers, and sidelong glances. The burden of the fake accusations continued to linger in the air. Meanwhile, my brother blatantly omitted me and acted like I did not exist. Had become buddies with some people who believed his aspect of the tale, and noticed him because the sufferer of my assaults, irrespective of how a lot I attempted to inform my aspect of the tale to all and sundry, it fell on deaf ears. I became an outcast branded with an unjust label that clung to me like a shadow, irrespective of where I went. The lecture room, the cafeteria, the corridors, the eyes that met mine have been filled with disdain and mistrust. I became a loner. I might maintain my head down and attend all my training, have lunch alone inside the cafeteria, and would instantly pass lower back home. I had no friends, and it felt like everybody, quite lots, did not want me there for the duration of all this. My mother and father, in no way once referred to as a test up on me, my grandmother could continuously remind me that this was now not my fault, and that life could eventually be okay. I graduated excessive school with true grades and become searching ahead to university, wherein, optimistically, I might have a better life. It turned into best after I went away to college. That I first skilled what freedom felt like for the first time. Nobody turned into looking over my shoulders. Nobody became comparing my grades, and no one changed into seeking to compete with me. I met people and formed friendships with like-minded people, despite the emotional and physical scars I had sustained over the years due to my family and friends. I targeting putting all of it behind me and taking part in this faculty experience as plenty as I could. In the course of this time, I determined my knack for content writing. I had always been a person who desired to be a writer. However, I wasn't certain if it would be sustainable. For a long term, therefore, I decided to ditch my dream. But to earn a few aspect cash, I decided to start writing as a freelancer. I signed up on diverse freelancing websites, which helped me stable jobs from prominent customers. That is how I slowly commenced building a portfolio of my paintings. At some stage in college, I maintained this side hustle, and in no way asked for a penny from my parents. When I graduated from university as an alternative of having a corporate job, I realized that I could pursue content writing as a complete time activity. I was doing quite nicely due to a couple of clients and the lengthy time period expert relationships I had with them, which allowed them to rot me in multiple initiatives of theirs, having a valid freelancing career. Now, not simplest made me financially unbiased, but also allowed me to journey the world as a digital nomad. Traveling helped heal me from my past, although it turned into genuinely now not easy. I stored up as a lot as I may want to, and took a chance on myself over time. I even have visible so much of the sector, and yet I even have so much of it left to peer. The only man or woman who I taken into consideration. My own family in the course of all this changed into my grandmother, and I absolutely adored her. She became very unhappy once I moved out, but she understood that I needed to be impartial on my own. Notwithstanding my anxious timetable, I could make it a point to be there for her each time I ought to. I could go to her on the weekends, frequently sharing food collectively, or definitely sitting at the porch, engrossed in conversations that ranged from early life tales to more current happenings. On weekends, I would dedicate entire afternoons to supporting her with household chores or accompanying her to the neighborhood park for a leisurely stroll. Lately, I were given performed with one of the most critical tasks of my profession. I cannot mention the logo, but I turned into extremely lucky to put in writing blogs and product descriptions for them. After the challenge turned into accomplished, I requested the team I labored with to leave me effective evaluations on my websites, which they were extra than happy to do accomplish. That I then took screenshots of some of their reviews to put up on my Instagram, as I knew operating with this brand turned into a large deal. As predicted, a lot of different content writers reached out to congratulate me on my professional achievement, and even reposted my tale to assist. Unfold the phrase, that is how I started out getting messages from strangers, who additionally wished to assist with their website. My loved ones noticed this as well, and some of them reached out to congratulate me. Ultimately, I was contacted with the aid of my college's principal. He had reached out to me after considering I was doing so nicely and wanted me to come to university for a seminar to talk to college students approximately building a profession. As a content author, I become pretty fearful as I do not do nicely on the subject of public speak me. However, I decided to take a chance and agreed. Once I located my self-status earlier than keen faces sharing my experiences and insights, I felt like my life had come full circle. I spoke in my speech approximately the struggles I confronted and how I worked hard to sustain myself. Notwithstanding all the difficult days, it became absolutely a totally gratifying enjoy to empower others and make a contribution to the growth of the writers' community. A number of my clips commenced going viral on Facebook companies. As humans cause with it, it felt exact to be sooner or later identified for my difficult paintings closing week. I become invited to speak at a nearby news channel. It become a show approximately the benefits of content writing, and that they invited me to share my adventure and insights with their viewers. I turned into a bit fearful, however additionally excited for the possibility. At some point of the display, I pointed out my experiences, the significance of purchaser reviews, and how a simple appreciation submit may want to open doors to top-notch opportunities, the opportunity to reach a broader target audience and inspire more people within the area. Turned into each humbling and exhilarating while it eventually aired. I shared a number of these clips on my Instagram additionally, as I changed into proud about being invited to a TV display. That is how my spouse and children and cousins started locating out how well I became doing in my career. You spot because my mother and father by no means talked about me to all people. They'd no idea that I turned into running with popular manufacturers and getting invited to TV indicates this is how phrase quick unfold inside my own family. I guess this TV interview have to have finally reached my parents' ears. Additionally, due to the fact just a few days later I changed into working on every other challenge. And last update, I am satisfied to document that the entirety in my lifestyles goes nicely. For now, professionally, my content material writing enterprise has been flourishing. The invitations to speak at seminars and podcasts continue to roll in, solidifying my role as a reputable parent in my line of work. I am as close to my grandmother as ever. I took a oni damage from my paintings currently so I could spend some great time together with her. She is into gardening these days, and knowledgeable me loads approximately numerous plant life and herbs. In her lawn, the moments I spent with her, whether sharing meals, conducting heartfelt conversations, or without a doubt enjoying each other's organization, are my favored and cherished recollections. My family has not contacted me after the letter they acquired from my lawyer, so I'm happy that they're staying away from me. In my opinion, I actually have started out going to remedy, so with any luck I can work on healing myself. I think this can be the last update for now.